Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Jazz Talk, my favorite segment of the show, where I interview local jazz musicians. This week we have Sergio. Sergio, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm living the dream, living pristine, doing my thing. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Yeah.
Sir.
Well, it's an honor to have you on the show. Obviously, it's been a while coming. Obviously, we've tried to plan it before, but it's never worked out. But I'm glad that you're finally on.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm really excited to be here. So
awesome. Yeah. Well, the first question I have for you is, how long have you been playing the trumpet for?
Man, I've been playing the trumpet since, everyone else, like 7th grade, I believe. So it's been like 16 or 17 years now, I think.
Awesome.
So getting up there in age, but yeah, I've been playing for that long.
Awesome. And then when did you start playing jazz music?
So, I'm from this area.
Yeah.
I went to Borger High School. And then, it was a small school and we didn't have a jazz band then.
I see.
I was more of a classical or like a concert player. So, I love doing like, more like I was more of a technical player. I love doing like Carnival of Venice, fast stuff. Never really got introduced to jazz until when my first year at college, which was at Amarillo College.
I see, yeah.
It was my first semester at Amarillo College, and I did not want to do the jazz band. I did it because the guy who gave me all the scholarships, who gave me a full ride for 2 years, was Dr. Jim Laughlin.
Awesome, yeah.
And he was just like, hey, would you like to play for for the jazz band?
Yeah.
And I was like, in my head, I was like, nah, man, that's for old people.
Yeah.
Like, that's not my thing. But I felt bad. I was not going to tell him that, So I was, I'll do your jazz band.
Awesome, yeah.
So, I did the jazz band that first semester, and I remember my first day of class, I didn't know really what jazz was. When I think of jazz at the time, it was more of like trad jazz or Dixieland stuff, and I was just not really a big fan of it. That or like maybe some big band, but even then I didn't know what big band was. So I remember my first day at Amarillo College for the jazz band, I was expecting like a big band.
I see.
And there was like maybe 7 people in the class. So it was a jazz combo, no idea what that was at the time. And I show up, I'm like, dude, like, where's everyone at? So it was definitely different, but it was an awesome experience. Dr. Laughlin was a great teacher. We were all kind of the same, like, I guess the same level. So, it was a good teaching ground for everything. And, I think one of the first songs that we did was like Blue Bossa.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and then we had to do solos. I did not want to take a solo at all. But Jim Laughlin is really encouraging and like just made you do it on the spot. He asked me, he's like, hey, do you want to take a solo? I was like, no, not really. He's like, all right, go take a solo. I was like, all right. And then from there, he gave me like some tips, like here's some pentatonic skills, do this and that. I took that first solo and I just really embarrassed myself. I just like, man, that was really bad. So that next day I went to the practice room and I was practicing every single day. Or I was practicing like for hours and hours to make sure I get a good solo. Came back that next day, and it was still trash. So it was I was trash for at least like 2 semesters. It wasn't until that second semester where I was taking it more seriously, and Dr. Laughlin, I was taking lessons with Dr. Laughlin himself. And he really helped me so much. He really helped me excel. He was like, hey, I'm going to teach you what you're going to do in the real world. Yeah. Like, this is what you're going to expect, and this is what you need to learn. So I was really appreciative of that. And I was at Amarillo College for 4 years. I did 2 years of music education. I got my associates. I was actually student teaching for just a little bit. And my main goal, I wanted to be a band director. I know you don't make that much money and stuff, but like, I love music, I love teaching, like, I want to be happy, and that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. I don't care about money. But after a while, I'm also business oriented, and at the time I was working in business management. So that's when I was like, man, I love business, but I love music, and what I really, really want to do is just play music. I don't want to teach right now. Maybe in the future, and when I do want to teach, I want to have my own music studio, or I want to teach at a university or something. I want to have students that are serious about what they're learning and stuff. So I switched to business, but I still wanted to do music. So I did music, I kept doing music, and business, which right now they're both a big part of my life. So doing music, You know, Dr. Laughlin taught me so much that third year of music, my first year of business music or business. I really didn't do jazz too much, but I was still, you know, doing a lot. And I was still taking lessons with Dr. Laughlin, and he really pushed me, and we were going up. So Dr. Laughlin really taught me a lot about jazz, and he really influenced me, and he brought me out into that field of music and introduced me to a lot of local professionals. So I was really lucky to have him as my teacher and push me out into the open world. And got to meet a lot of really amazing musicians, and he brought me out there into the music scene here in Amarillo, and I got to meet people, amazing people, amazing musicians here in Amarillo, through the jazz scene and stuff, and you know, just lucky to have him as one of my first teachers in jazz. So he was the one that introduced me, and I feel like I was kind of late into the scene. Everyone, you know, did jazz all region, high school and stuff, so I was kind of behind, but he really brought me up to pace, and I had I had two other great teachers that taught me a lot of things to, you know, excel to where I'm at now. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I know you mentioned a little bit how, you know, you weren't really interested in jazz. You didn't want to play it at all, to finding yourself, you know, in the practice room, trying to practice solo, trying to become a great jazz player. Do you remember what the switch was? What exactly happened in your mind where you were like, I really enjoy playing jazz, and what made you so attracted to the genre of jazz from that day on?
I think it was my second semester at Amarillo College. We every second semester we would go to Greeley Jazz Festival in Colorado. And that's where I just got to meet a lot of other people that are really interested into jazz. That's where my first experience with actual like big band. Got to see the Gordon Goodwin Fat Band, you know. So got to see Wade Bergeron and got to shake his hand, take pictures and everything. So and also our clinician was Antonio Hart, a great still alive tenor sax player, one of the best I think living tenor players alive right now in our time. So that really inspired me to keep going to jazz. Awesome, he gave me some really encouraging words, and it just clicked from there. So after that, that's all I wanted to do. Like, I love classical stuff, but jazz is where, I don't know, something happened, something just clicked, and I was just into it, and that's kind of where I've been for the rest of where I've been from here on out. So, it's been a crazy experience. It's been a crazy switch. I never would have thought this would happen, but I'm thankful for the opportunity.
That's awesome. Yeah. See, it's crazy you say that, because I actually went to the same year I went to the Greeley Jazz Festival.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I remember seeing Gordon Goodwin's Big Fat Band, and I remember we stayed at the same hotel as them.
What?
So when we woke up in the morning to get ready to leave, they were all there. That's crazy. And that's also, funny you say that too, that's also when I realized that I really like jazz. Hearing it in person was a different experience.
Yeah, it is. It's always a different, honestly, any kind of genre, any kind of music, you can listen to it on the radio, but it's different when you experience something live. It's life-changing. So, thankful for opportunity also. Dr. Laughlin, he was always encouraging. So, he put me where I'm at now.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Yeah. And then I know you said you were a lot more band and orchestra oriented when you first started playing trumpet. So does the way you think when you play jazz compared to when you're playing in those big ensemble settings change? Does the way you think change a lot?
That's a really good question. I believe, yeah. I mean, both of them are a type of music. Music is a form of science and a form of art. Yeah. It's a form of science because, with it's science when the chords and stuff, if it's math based, when you have a string and you cut it in half, it's an octave. But we put human emotions to these chords and stuff, major sounds happy, minor sounds sad, all this, diminish, blah, blah, blah. When I think of orchestral or a concert band, it's a different type of emotion, and it's amazing. When I think of band or orchestra, I think of a lot of it's a big ensemble, and you can have a lot of different chord types and stuff, and you convey a different type of emotion. But when I do jazz, it's also a different type of art, different kind of emotions. Yeah. But I love jazz. It's different in the sense of it's more free. In orchestral or concert playing, you know, in both genres, you want it's tone, accuracy. You know, you want to play the best you can. You want to be play in time. You want to play the right stuff. But when it comes to jazz, you don't play stuff how it's written on the sheet. When you read a jazz standard, doesn't matter what it is, you're not going to play it how it is written, like on the melody. You're not going to play everything squared. You play it how you want to play it. And on top of that, when you do solos, and the thing that I feel like is different from concert playing, orchestral playing from jazz, is when you do solos, it's you're improvising like a lot of the times, especially you know, when you do solos and stuff. And for me, soloing is one of the biggest thing. Like, you're instantly composing on the spot. I feel like you use the same tools that you do when you're composing a piece. I mean, you have the chords and stuff, and then you write melodies on top of that. But I feel like you're doing that instantly on the spot. And you practice all your, you know, you do routines, you do your scales, blah, blah, blah. But when you're playing, when you're soloing, you kind of just forget it, and it's just an empty canvas, and you play what you feel. And there's just a lot of reaction too when you're playing in a jazz ensemble with like a rhythm section. Like, it's not just you soloing, you're also reacting to like the rhythm section. You're you know, you're playing a riff or something, you're playing like a specific rhythm, and the rhythm section follows you. Like, it's all what's the word, we're all working as a team basically. So yeah, it's a little different, but yeah, it's just more free. Jazz is more free, so that's what I really love about it.
Awesome. Yeah. And then obviously gigging is a big part of jazz. That's how a lot of, you know, jazz players currently try to get their name out there and stuff like that. And I know you do gigging a lot. Like, I know you have a gig later tonight. But can you tell me the story about your first gig and how you were feeling when you found out you got this gig, and when you were there, how you were feeling?
To be honest, I really can't remember my first gig, but I think of maybe one of my first two gigs. One of them was a paid gig, and then one of them wasn't a paid gig. I think my first one was with Dr. Laughlin. He invited me out. He always invites me out to his gigs and stuff, and at the time he was playing all the time in Amarillo. And I would go to most of his his gigs and stuff, and I just get to meet people. I just love jazz music then. So he would always ask me, "Hey sir, did you bring your trumpet?" I'm like, "Nope." Every gig for 5-8 gigs, did you bring your trumpet? And I just thought he was joking. Eventually, you know, I just brought my trumpet one time, and it was a gig. He had a gig at the Esquire Jazz Club downtown on Polk Street, and he was playing. It was his quartet, and it was him, Nick Scales. I forgot who the drummer was. She just recently retired.
Dr. Tark.
Yes, Dr. Tark. And I think it was E.P. Simmons on piano. So I went up there, brought my trumpet, and played a couple songs with them, and it was a packed house, man. And it was just an awesome experience. I love playing, and it's just different. I love rehearsing and stuff when we had practices with the jazz ensemble. You know, I loved, you know, learning new things and learning new songs and doing my thing. But when you're playing in an audience, it's a whole different thing. There's an energy that goes in the room, and you feed off of that energy. When people are hollering and stuff in your solos, that just kind of brings your solo up to another level. When you clap, when you're people are just really into the music, it just I don't know what it is, but you just play differently and you just feed off of that energy. So that was one of my first gig experience. My first paid experience was with a group that I do not want to mention. But it was a lot of fun. It was a wedding gig downtown on Polk Street too. It was a lot of fun, and it was really disorganized. We had charts and stuff, but they were all different arrangers.
Interesting.
And then we didn't have some music to some of the songs, so we were just kind of improvising. But it was still the same thing. People were still dancing. There was a lot of people dancing and stuff. We were still improvising and feeding off of that energy, even though it wasn't really rehearsed, or we didn't have the same music and stuff. It was just life changing. And from then I was man, I want to do this every weekend. So
awesome. And I know you said earlier when you were talking about how Dr. Laughlin took you out to gig and introduced you to so many people, but why do you think networking is such an important part about jazz, especially when it comes to gigging?
So networking is really important, and I don't think it's just it's specific to jazz. It's anything. And I didn't know at the time, but I didn't even know I was networking. Like, I just love music. I just wanted to play whoever I could play with, like, whenever, like, when people ask me, like, hey, you want to jam? Like, if I'm free, I'm so down to jam. I don't care. You don't have to pay me.
Yeah.
You know, this is what I love to do. So I was doing that. I was playing with different groups. Downtown, the Kiva Shriners, they used to have a big band. They don't have that anymore, but they had some music that was composed back in like the 40s and the 50s. Awesome music arrangement, and I was doing that. I was getting to meet people, and you know, I wasn't the best player, but I was easy to work with.
Yeah.
So people would recommend me, like, hey, you know, if you need a drum player, it's Sergio. You know, so from there I was recommended to a group, and then to another group, and then another group. You know, I got to meet people. I got their contact info, which is really important. And the next thing you know, I think I was playing with the A-Town Rockers. My second instructor, John Decker, he was my first trumpet instructor at AC. And he was like, hey, can you sub for me for the A-Town Rockers? Like, you know, I'll be out. You can have my equipment. Here's the music. Here, blah, 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 blah. And I show up, and you know, I got to meet really cool people, talented people. And I met the saxophone guy called James on alto sax. And he was just really cool, easy to work with. Came up to me, we were talking, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, hey, you want to have a beer? You know, let's get a drink. Let's do this and that. And then he recommended me to Big G and the Trade Winds. Yeah. And then from there, it just kind of blew off. And like, I was like maybe getting gigs here and there, but from there, it just kind of exploded. And I was doing gigs like literally every week after that. And I was thankful. And at the time, I didn't know like these musicians like James. I think everyone knows him as Dr. Barger. No idea he was a doctor over here. Like, it was crazy. I remember doing WT Jazz Ensemble one semester, and I'm like, hey, what's up, James? And everyone just like gasped, like, dude, do not disrespect Dr. Barger. I'm like, who's that? Like, getting to meet Nick Scales and stuff. Yeah, so just networking is really important. You can be a great player, but if you're not easy to work with, you're not going to get hired again. If you're not like having a good time with the band, like if you're like bad vibes and stuff, like you're not, even if you're a great player, you're not going to get hired back. So being easy to play with. Also, you have to be, you know, decent player. You don't have to be the best player, but that networking, make sure you get people's contact, getting to meet people, going out there. Even if you're an introverted person, you have to get yourself out there. Like, it's not an easy job, easy task. If you want to get gigs, you know, people like, you know, message the venue, whatever. But I think it's not easier, but it's better to go to the venue itself and be like, if you can find the booking manager or whoever, the bar manager or whatever, be like, hey, I'm so and so. I have this band, you know, talk to them in person, you know, handshake, have like maybe some music or some videos, like, this is our band, I would love to work with you. You know, so networking is super important if you want to get gigs anywhere, you know, so I can't stress that enough, you know. And like I said, I didn't know what I was doing. I just loved doing music, and I just got to meet these people, and I was just networking without noticing what was going on. So now I know more now, but yeah, networking is important for sure.
Yeah. And then, is there any jazz artists that you really enjoy listening to, or that you always try to base your sound off of?
So, yes, I think my favorite at the time, for the longest time, was Rory Hargrove. There's a lot of amazing players, and you know, I think just Rory Hargrove really spoke to me. His tone was like not the best, but it was different. And one thing that I can say about Roy Hargrove is that he was really soulful. Like, I feel like he spoke from the heart. It wasn't licks, it wasn't, you know, changes and stuff. Like, it was just like, this is what I feel at the moment, this is what I'm gonna play. And his tone like was kind of showed in that sense too. Like, it wasn't really normal, but he would like blare his sound. Which some drum players, like, no, you don't have to play so loud, especially if you have a mic and stuff. Like, you don't have to like outplay. But like, or Hargrove, like when he like play the higher notes, or you know, just when he just felt like he needs to just like make a statement, he would like kind of overplay, and like his sound would be a little spread and stuff. That's what I based my tone off for the longest time. Now it's changed the older I get and other more experience that I have, but he was the first person for the longest time that I based my sound off of, just like soulful playing and just like the way how he played, it was just unique in my opinion. And that's
Yeah.
just what I really loved. So,
Awesome.
you know, everyone has different opinions and stuff, but Roy Hargrove was for sure someone that I based my tone off of.
Awesome. Yeah. And then, what is one of your favorite memories relating to jazz?
Favorite memories. Let me see. Man, I would say most memories are favorite memories, but I don't think there's anything particular, but I think one of my favorite things is just getting to play with people that I like are really great friends of mine. Like most of the people that I play with aren't. I know these people. Like we're really great friends. We hang out all the time and stuff, and like being able to have a gig with them, and like it's like a 3-hour gig, and it would just go in an instant. Like boom, the gig is over. I'm like, what? We just started. Like.
Yeah.
I wish we can keep playing, but it's a great experience, and each time that happens, it's like a favorite memory. Like that's why I love to keep playing. So I know it's not something specific, but with my band Groove Anthem, Karen and the guys, Tristan, Mao, and we have different people rotating every. They're all freelancers, so sometimes they're busy and stuff, but being with them just makes me happy. Just vibing off each other, like playing stuff and like off of each other. It's just great memories every time. So
Awesome. Yeah. And then, why do you think it's important to listen to live jazz when you can?
Great question. I don't think it's just live jazz. I think it's live anything. Like I said, I never was a live or a jazz person, but got to experience it, and then like got to experience it live, and it changed my life. Growing up, my parents listened to Spanish music and blasted every weekend. Just not a fan of it.
Yeah, I see.
Just like just didn't like it. It's just like got annoying. Like I'm trying to sleep. But then eventually, I joined a Spanish band, and I'm like once I start playing it, I started appreciating so much more, and I started listening to it. And I don't even think you have to play it, but if you listen to anything live, and you're there to experience like the energy that goes on in the room, it can change your life, and it can make you change your mind. You would start appreciating things more. You're like, oh, I love this kind of music now, and you start listening to it. Like you could listen to something before, you're like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Then you see this band or whatever live, and you're like, oh my God, what just happened? And then from there you start listening to that song, like, and it just like you bring those experiences with you when you're listening to your earphones or in your car.
Yeah.
It just makes a really, really big difference listening anything, not just jazz, but anything live.
Awesome. Yeah. And then, how have you personally evolved musically over the years?
I've evolved musically through just playing. I took lessons with like 3 different instructors. First was Jim Laughlin. He got me into jazz, gave me lessons for like 2.5 years, and I excelled in it. Because of him, I took it serious. So he was happy to have a student who actually like practiced the stuff that he told me to practice. And then he brought me to another jazz artist, who was one of his students back in like 2000, like I can't remember what year it was, but who is now like he teaches in Kentucky.
I see. Yeah.
He has his jazz master's degree. He's like a band director and like jazz director or something in Kentucky. He went to the East Coast in Indiana, got his master's in jazz studies, and Jim Laughlin brought me to this guy. He's like, you should take lessons from him because I taught you everything I could. And also Dr. Jim Laughlin, he teaches saxophone. So, it was great. I learned so much, but like he can't really teach me trumpet, like trumpet stuff, the quirks and all that, in and outs. So I was lucky for him to bring me with Marlon McKay, which is another artist. So that I was taking lessons with Marlon McKay for like 2.5 years, and completely changed my life, changed my playing. He put me where I needed to be. And I was just doing my thing here in Amarillo, playing, I'm a freelancer. I play who I want to play with. I don't have no quota I have to meet. So, I advanced, and I mostly did like jazz combos. Excelled, I'm still working on it, like everyone, you're going to be working for this for the rest of your life, no matter what you do. But, I was doing that and I was doing good. But then like, a year and a half ago, my friend Darren Del Cueto got me into his company that he works for, the Jordan Kahn Music Company. And they are a party band, you know, like they're high end. Like, man, it's kind of crazy. They have different packages. I think their cheapest package is a 10-piece band, and they charge $15,000 to $20,000. So you're playing for like corporate events, like high end weddings, the news channel, like anything high end, like luxury. It's a luxury party band. And that was a really, really big experience. Way different experience. Like, you know, I wasn't really a lead player. With trumpet players, I feel like you're either a lead player or you're a soloist. And it's rare to have both. Like, it's not like often. Like, you have Wayne Bergeron, and he can solo, but I don't think he's really a soloist. Like some of these other, like Clifford Brown or Roy Hargrove or Chet Baker. But he's an amazing lead player. So with the Jordan Kahn Music Company, we're playing, you know, pop music and stuff, and they have what's his name? I think it's Scott Sidway. He composes like the horn charts for Jordan Kahn. And like for stuff like don't have horn parts, like, you know, we blew Sabrina Carpenter Espresso. We have like you know, horn arrangements not in the recordings, like composed by him, like Pardon the USA, Miley Cyrus. Even like some of the Bruno Mars stuff, like it's kind of in there, but he adds more stuff, and it's really cool. But it's just a lot of lead playing sometimes. And like I said, I'm not a lead player. And my first Jordan Kahn gig, oh my goodness, dude. I think it was a 16-piece. We played Midland Petroleum Club, high-end club, membership only. It was completely packed, and it was a 16-piece. And the other trumpet player next to me was the one o'clock player for the UNT band. Oh my God, this guy was cracked out, dude. So that really, from there, for a year and a half ago, that made me change. Like, you know what? Like, I always wanted to be an improviser. But from there, I was like, man, I want to be a lead player. Like, I also want to play lead. Like, why can't I do both? So from there, I started focusing on like going back to the fundamentals of lead playing.
I see,
Because as an improviser, I always focus on a darker tone. I played on a bigger mouthpiece where I can just like make a big sound, like Roy Hargrove and stuff. But like when you're playing lead stuff on a big mouthpiece, man, you're just you're struggling. It's really wears your chops out. Like you have to play on a lead mouthpiece, and I cannot play on a new lead mouthpiece. So it took me a bunch, like probably 6 to 8 months, to learn how to play on a lead mouthpiece. So that's where my playing started changing. I went back to the fundamentals, started playing, you know, lead stuff, and I still love improvising, and it will always still be there, but like the last 6 months, that's really what I've been focusing on, is lead playing. Like, I can improvise and I can always get better at it, but I want to be a lead player that can also improvise too. Awesome, so my changing has played, you know, so with my experiences being in that company has really changed too. So I don't know, we'll see what happens in the future. You know, I might do something else, but those are the two things that I want to do. Like, I do want to be a lead player. I also do want to be an improviser. So trying to work on both of them, and it's not easy, but definitely want to do that.
Awesome. And then besides music, what else inspires you?
I think family and friends. I know family and friends inspire me. Like with music, doing these gigs, like most of these people, all these people are like my really good friends. So we're just having a good time. Also, I'm really business oriented. You know, I went back to AC. I got my associates in business administration, and I started exploring like business management. And I'm working my way up into a corporate business. So that really inspires me. And I love inspiration, but like inspiration really doesn't mean much to me. I feel like discipline is more important. Like, I love music and stuff, but like, you know, if you want to clean your room, if you're inspired to clean your room, heck yeah, you know, you clean your room. But like, what if you're not inspired to clean your room? You're not going to clean your room. Same thing for practicing. Like, you're inspired to practice, but like, what if you just have your day, you don't want to practice, you know? You got to be disciplined. Like, you know, even 15, 30 minutes a day doesn't even have to be that long. Make it consistent. Making it consistent, like, you can do anything with that in life. Like with business, I kept it consistent. I did that with me. I didn't even know I was doing that with music. I knew that I was staying consistent. I spent thousands and thousands of hours practicing in the practice rooms. And like, I was like, man, I can do this, you know, like, why can't I do this with like business? So I did that, and that really did, like, being disciplined, great. It helps a lot, and it helps me being inspired too. But just being disciplined is really important. If you're talking about inspiration, what really does inspire me is competition. Playing with some of these guys that I play with here in Amarillo, and even with the Jordan Call Music Company, you know, I'll play a lot in Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, up in Nashville, Midland. Like some of these guys, oh my God, dude, they're just stupid, ridiculous. I feel like I'm playing with Wayne Bergeron over here. Like, I'm like, bro, stop. So after that, the next day, I'm just like in my house. I'm like practicing 10 hours, dude. I'm just like, bro, I gotta get better. So competition really does inspire me. But being disciplined is probably the most important thing in my opinion.
Awesome. Yeah. There we go. And then, what is the best piece of advice you have ever gotten relating to music?
Best piece of advice. Man, I got a lot of great advice. But I think one that I really, really take to heart, and I guess it's more jazz related, I think, is when you're improvising, I would say playing with intent is probably the biggest thing. And it just sounds simple, but it's not. And I still kind of do now, I'm still working on it, but like I feel like when I'm playing and I pause for a little bit, I feel like I have to like keep playing, like I have to fill in the space and stuff. Like I had to like BS and B flat. It's just not how it goes. Like you need to make a statement. You need to play with intent. You need to like make a statement and like reach out to people's heart. Like you don't have to play every single beat of the measure. Like even like leaving space, like phrasing makes a huge difference in your playing. And it's hard to and it's hard for some people, like for like maybe like non-horn players. Like for us, we have to breathe, which kind of leaves a little bit of like some space and stuff. Yeah. But for guitar players, the piano players, they can just go on forever and ever, whatever. Playing with intent, man, really was probably the best advice that I've gotten. Like, man, and it does make a big difference. I would rather play less notes, but make it sound like simple and like, you know, I meant to do this instead of like doing a lot of runs all the time. Like it just doesn't really sound the best. So playing with intent was probably the best awesome. Advice that I've gotten so far.
And the last question I have for you is, what advice do you have for up and coming jazz musicians?
I think the best advice is just play with whoever you can, at least starting out. And then I hate to say this, but you know, you have to do some free gigs. Like you don't want to always do free gigs because you know that kind of messes up the market sometimes. Like, you know, I'm gonna hire this guy because he's for free. It shouldn't be like that. But playing with whoever you can, getting lessons, man, is a big thing too. Like if you want to get better, it doesn't have to be with someone. You can go on YouTube and be like, what do I need to work on? You know, so do this, learn the lesson. Keep working on it and practice every day. Be disciplined. You know, 15 minutes, 30 minutes a day will get you far in like 2 years. That and then networking, talking to people, making friends. Like when you get invited to play with a band, get to know the people. Like, hey, what's your name? You know, like what do you do? How long have you been playing? And just get to know people. Because then from then they will recommend you to like, hey, you know, if someone needs a trumpet player or whatever you play. Like, hey, I know this guy, you know, he's kind of new, whatever, but I like this guy. He's easy to work with. You know, let's bring him in. So they'll bring you in, and that gives you an opportunity to work with other people. And then from there, man, it expands, and then they will recommend you to other people. And then from there, man, your options are limitless. So best advice is networking, getting to meet people, getting to know people, and obviously, you know, practicing your instrument and stuff, and being easy to work with, man, because there's been a lot of times where I played with amazing people, but like they're just not easy to work with. Like no one wants to work with you. Like it's not fun. Like a lot of people do like music that do for a living. Like most of them love doing music. Some of them, you know, they do it because they have to pay rent and stuff. You know, I get that, but in my experience, most people just love doing music. So they're gonna hire people that they love doing music with. They're not gonna hire someone that will kill the vibe.
Yeah, of course.
That's just the best advice that I can get you. Get yourself out there, talk to people, network. It is hard, and especially if you're introverted. You know how I was. You just have to like get you out of your comfort zone and just get yourself out there. Like just keep doing it, and it does get easier. I used to be really, really nervous, like back in middle school, high school, like playing in front of people. Like I would shake. and like have like a weird vibrato and stuff. And I forced myself, like high school, like, hey, who wants to play this etude in front of everyone? Like, I do not want to do that, you know. But like, if I want to get better at, you know, playing in front of people, I have to do this. So I'd raise my hand every time. To the point my senior year, they were like, Sergio, just put your hand down, bro. Like, it's not worth it. So just get yourself out there. Get out of your comfort zone is one of the biggest things I can get in networking. It's the best advice I can give to, and not just jazz musician, but just any musician that wants to get out there and just, you know, do what they want to do. So
there we go. Awesome. And this next little segment I like to give to all my guests, to give them a chance to promote anything, shout out anyone that they think needs to be shouted out. So go ahead, the moment is yours.
Man, there's a lot of people I want to shout out to. Austin, Brazil. One of my, I think he was like my second instructor for the Jazz Ensemble AC. You know, he really, he's the one that started one of my groups, you know, Groove Anthem. Before Groove Anthem is the Almanza Quartet. Before the Almanza Quartet, it was the AC Jazz Band. So I had Ethan Spears on drums. I had David Romo and Josh Galan. Shout out to those guys. You know, we're here now where we're at because of them. And then Jim Laughlin for sure. Shout out to Jim Laughlin, man. He's the one that got me into all this. So, and then Marlon McKay, my teacher, man, I love that guy. He put me on a different. He put me on the professional level, basically. Shout out to him. And then my band Groove Anthem. Shout out to Karen. She keeps me honest and she helps me out so much with all this stuff. So it's not just me running the band. She's a band leader. She handles a lot of the leadership too. So shout out to her.
There we go.
Sure.
Awesome. There we go. And the last thing I like to ask all my guests to recommend one song to be out onto the playlist forever. What song would you like to recommend today?
I would definitely say, if it's not on there already, I would say Nicka's Dream, Horace Silver. It just hits differently, man. It's like something that's not like, it's not a jazz standard, I would say, but it's kind of well known in the music scene for sure. Wherever, like, I love jazz standards, like it's like universal, but Nicka's Dream is a great, you know, arrangement, or not arrangement, but it's just a great song. You know, like you definitely, if you want to learn the song, you have to actually listen to the song and like play what they're playing. But yeah, for sure, I would say Nicka's Dream.
Awesome. There we go. Well, all that's left to do is, of course, take the Polaroid picture. And if you want to see what pose Sergio picks, make sure to check out the Instagram, Jazzy Fridays on Instagram, to see what he picked. But thank you once again, Sergio, for coming on to the show. It was an honor having you. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. And then thank you, everyone, as well as for listening to Jazz Talk, where I interview local jazz musicians. Make sure to stay tuned. We have so much more coming up soon. We'll catch you all in a little bit.